I'm Lupo,
I'm Lee.
and today we're gonna go see
Venom.
All right, so I've actually been looking forward to this for quite a while now. So we're about to go in. We're gonna go watch Venom, and we'll let you know in a minute
We'll let you know.
how it is.
All right, see ya.
Bye. Hey, so we went and saw Venom.
Venom.
Yep.
Now, I'm really curious on what you thought. So you go for it.
Well, let's do our normal here.
Okay, go ahead.
Before we start going for scores.
No, I didn't want to score. I want you to go ahead and talk about it.
Oh, okay. So, all right, I'll go first this time.
Yeah.
I was really looking forward to Venom. The trailers looked amazing. I'm very familiar with the character. This was something I really wanted to work. And my God, it was slow. The best part of the whole movie was the last 5 minutes. And I just waited and waited and waited. For crying out loud, my God. This was, I mean, it's like they stayed true to the characters, but that was the slowest intro, middle section, and end section I've ever seen in a movie like this.
You know, it's interesting. Now I understand why I like Siskel and Ebert so much.
Yeah.
Mainly because they can. It's okay to disagree.
Yeah.
They all had their ideas. They all had their opinions on what they just saw on the screen, and they're not willing or they're not afraid to express it. And I am the opposite of you on this.
Wow.
I like Venom, and yes, I'm very familiar with.
I love Venom.
Right. I'm very familiar with the character as well. Right.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the character as well. And I understand the slow points. And actually, when I did see that they hadn't really led up to introducing us to Venom, it did go through my mind. It's like, well, you know, they're really taking their time with this. But to me, it wasn't in a negative way. In a sense, I mean, everything needs to have build up and blah, 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 blah. We've heard that time and time again. And I know they could have introduced Venom almost immediately in this movie, but they didn't. And I think because you and I, who are familiar with the character, I think they probably did that mainly because this is a character that nobody's heard about. They're going to be those mundanes, as we call them, the folks that aren't comic fans and things of that nature, have no idea who this character Venom is, much like Spawn, which, by the way, was created by both were created by the same person, Tom McFarlane. And Spawn was another movie that I don't think if you weren't into the comic, if you didn't know anything about the comic book of Spawn, you probably wouldn't go see the movie. But yet the movie is popular and it has this cult following. You know, go ahead.
Well, I mean, when Spawn came out, it didn't do well. And most people were like, it was boring and they didn't care for it.
Right.
The problem I had with this is, I understand build-up. But you can have interesting build-up. And you can have build-up that creates a level of positive anxiety, like something's going to happen. Alfred Hitchcock was a master of this. He could sit there and people could be talking on the top of the desk, and there could be a bomb underneath the desk with the counter ticking down, and then let's sit there and like, well, let's get going, and then turn around going, I forgot my keys. All the while you're like, get out of there, get out.
Right.
That type of suspense is amazing.
Right.
And that was sorely lacking in this film.
Yeah.
Immensely. So
Now,
I looked at my phone when things started to happen. 30 minutes into the movie is when the first thing actually starts to happen. 30 minutes. So up until then, it was like,
yeah. Well,
I literally started to fall asleep in the movie.
Okay. All right. So we got that. You didn't like it. I liked it.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of reasons in the movie why I like it. I'm a stickler for script writing and acting and execution overall.
So let's talk about acting.
Okay. Tom Hardy. Now let me tell you something. I know Tom Hardy has a British accent. I've seen him in the last Road Warrior movie. I can't remember what the name of that was or whatever. and I saw him in a couple other movies, and I only have seen Tom using some form of accent when he portrayed what's his name in the Batman movie. I recognize him, and when he was speaking straight out solid American English in this movie, it kind of threw me for a loop, and I kind of was noticing him a little bit as trying a little hard to kind of pronounce words more in American fashion. But overall, Tom's acting was fine with me. I'm not going to say it was exemplary, that it was over the top or anything like that. It was fine. It was fine for the part that he had to carry out. What'd you think?
Overall, I thought the acting was adequate for the film. I actually felt the one who was the strongest actor was the female lead of the film. I felt she was the strongest of the actors.
Yeah, I forget her name too.
I can't remember her name,
yeah,
but
I've seen her somewhere.
I felt she did. She had the strongest role in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I felt the acting was, like I said, not over the top or great. It was adequate for the film, and that kind of hurt it. It needed a stronger level of acting. One of the problems I had is the main character at the beginning of the movie. He's kind of a badass, and he goes from badass to wuss in 3.5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the movie, he's this. At the beginning of the movie, he's a lion, and at the end of the movie, he's this little mousy guy going, "Okay, I guess we'll be better now." And I was really disappointed that he went from this badass reporter to this mousy little guy you have no respect for. Now, I understand in the movie, without giving anything away, he's broken down, but you don't lose that aspect of you, you know.
Well, and this is where I'm going to disagree.
Yeah, well, no. I mean, because he gets Venom in him, which should give him back the confidence and the strength that he had before, and it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen.
I didn't see that. I saw him.
You watched the same movie, right?
Yeah, we did,
Okay,
but I didn't see that at
sure.
all. But I actually saw him receiving a symbiote and being scared to death.
I saw that, yeah.
And I think that's how I would have reacted. It's like, what the hell is this?
But he was mousy
Whatever.
before the symbiote.
Yeah, but I think the biggest guys out there, the most mature. I mean, if Schwarzenegger had this thing sucked in his body,
Well,
if Stallone had this
I
thing.
get that.
Wait a minute, if Stallone had this thing sucked in his body, I think at some point, they're going to be scared, and probably scared most of the time until they really get familiar with the symbiote. And then execute its powers.
Right,
That's what I saw.
but at the very end, he was comfortable with him. In fact, he was mournful at one point when he thought he lost it. So now that he is coexisting at an equal level with it, he was still mousy.
Well, I didn't see that.
At the very end,
I didn't see it.
You gotta watch it again.
No, I did. I remember the entire movie.
At the very end, he was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he didn't have that strength he did when he was that badass reporter. So that let me down.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Right. So move on.
Let's move on.
Let's talk story.
Okay. Without telling any spoilers whatsoever, a lot of people who understand Venom and where Venom came from, which isn't really a deep dark secret,
right?
You pretty much get a little bit more storyline behind that in terms of, well, we know symbionts are obviously not of this earth. How did you get here? What are you here for? You will get those answers in this movie.
Yeah.
So
it tells the story accurately.
Right, but there was a backstory. The backstory was basically the story behind how the symbiote got to this planet. And that included a whole list of different characters in the movie.
Yeah.
And at some point, all of it comes together, and we get the climax or finale or whatever you want to call it. So, in terms of the story, I gave it an average. If I wanted to go A, B, C, D, I'd give it probably a C plus, maybe a B. I'd probably C.
So I like the fact that the story was accurate to the comics. It explains things pretty thoroughly, but they could have done it in a more entertaining or more energetic way. I just felt so bored with the story throughout the majority. Like I said, the most exciting part of the whole film was the last 5 minutes.
Right.
I mean,
it did pick up. and
It did
get
pick up.
pretty
But
damn
God,
exciting
it took
and
a
funny.
long time.
It-
There were some parts in there where I laughed out loud. And
Same here.
And realistically, it's if you've ever seen the anime, Vampire Hunter D, it's an old Japanese anime. It's one of my absolute favorites. Watch it subtitled or watch it with the English dub, which is you should never do, but watch it for the scene. In Vampire Hunter D, he's constantly arguing with the demon that's in his hand, and it's some of the funniest parts of the whole anime.
Yeah.
This was very similar.
It
The
was
interactions
definitely
between
interaction between him and the
Venom
symbiote.
between
Yeah.
him and Venom was
Yeah, it's funny.
brilliant. It was brilliant.
Okay.
So let's talk about scores.
Yes, go ahead and give it a score. My score on Venom, I'll get to that in a minute, but my score on Venom was 7.25. 7.25, and that's pretty much in a high category for me, but there's a fence that you have to go over in order you feel you've grabbed me, and usually it starts at 7.
So my score is actually really close.
What is it?
4. And I only gave it a 4 because I gave the Purge, the new Purge movie that came out, a 2,
Yeah.
and this was just better than
Yeah.
the Purge, because with the Purge I wanted the last 2 hours of my life back.
Gotcha. Okay.
This wasn't horrific, but I didn't care for it. And I'm a huge fan of these. It honestly let me down.
And
so I give it a 4.
and I'm on the opposite of that. I actually enjoyed it. So
Yeah.
there we go. We got a
So,
4. We got a 7.25.
Would you own it?
Good question, because I really don't collect movies anyway.
Yeah.
So would I own this one? No, it'd probably be low on my list of grabbing. One other thing before we sign off I wanted to mention is stay until the end, until the screen goes dark, because there's an extra added surprise that I was wondering, well, why the heck did they even add this in? And it was actually very enjoyable. So stay till the end.
So, partway through the credits, there's, like they always do, a little extra thing with Venom in there, and this was after that, after the credits rolled on continuously.
It was surprising.
So watch the little clip about Venom, and then stay to the very end of the credits, because this other thing comes up.
That are in there. And actually, I have to add to this. There's 2. Mid credits, you're going to find out something very, very interesting, much like all Marvel movies. Okay, and then that stops and more credits come on, and I think it stops again. I could be wrong on that. It might have moved. No, I think I'm right on that. And then it moved into something else that really is like, oh,
it had nothing to do with Venom.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with Venom, but it was very enjoyable to watch. So stay.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm Lupo.
I'm Lee.
And this is Lupo and Lee Reviews. Thank you for joining us.
All right.
Please like and subscribe, and please share our reviews with your friends.
Yes.
Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you. See you guys. Enjoy Venom.